What if you could walk one street and see rock stars, groupies, and chaos, all in a single night? In the 1980s, the Sunset Strip wasn't just alive, it was untouchable. Glam metal ruled. The bars were loud, the nights were filthy, and the stories? Half myth, half madness. This was where the makeup was thicker than the rules, and the after parties never ended. Today, we're going inside the bars and clubs that turned this mile-and-a-half stretch of LA into the most dangerous, legendary rock scene in America. Many of these places will surprise you, and some of them you can even visit today. Take note. If there was a nucleus to the Sunset Strip's madness, it was the Rainbow Bar and Grill, equal parts dive, hangout, and rock and roll headquarters. The Rainbow was where bands pre-gamed, fans waited for glimpses of their idols, and after parties blurred into the next day. On any given night, you could spot members of Mötley Crüe, Guns N' Roses, Judas Priest, even Lemmy from Motorhead playing video poker by the bar. It wasn't glamorous. It was smoky, loud, and chaotic. But that's exactly why it mattered. The Rainbow wasn't about velvet ropes or VIP lists. It was about who could party harder, longer, and louder. It was the unofficial clubhouse of LA's rock underground, and somehow, it's still standing. Before the Strip fully exploded, there was the Starwood, a club on Santa Monica Boulevard that sparked the glam metal fire. Originally a jazz venue, it evolved into a crucible for punk, metal, and everything loud. On the 24th of April, 1981, it hosted Mötley Crüe's first ever live show, a set that would mark the unofficial birth of the glam metal scene. The Starwood was short-lived but explosive. In just a few years, it became the launchpad for legends and a playground for the unhinged. It closed its doors in 1981, but its spirit spread like wildfire across the Strip, its influence baked into every club that came after. The Roxy was a stage, but on the Rox, its secretive upstairs bar was the real show. By day, the Roxy booked some of the biggest names in rock. But by night, it became a portal to everything wild, excessive, and completely off-limits. Stars, dealers, groupies, and wannabes all packed into the intimate upstairs space, where rules didn't matter and reputations were made or destroyed before sunrise. Heidi Fleiss threw infamous parties there. Everyone from Axl Rose to Prince passed through. And while today the Roxy is a respectable venue, the upstairs bar once operated as the Strip's true after-hours circus, a place where you didn't ask questions and definitely didn't bring a camera. Whiskey Agogo was already legendary by the time glam metal moved in. Founded in 1964, it had seen The Doors, Janis Joplin, and Iggy Pop. But in the mid-80s, it was reborn. This time with louder guitars, bigger hair, and zero apologies. After briefly closing in the early 80s, it reopened in 1985, right at the peak of the glam explosion, welcoming the next wave of chaos with open arms. It was sweaty, packed, and dangerously loud, exactly what it needed to be. This wasn't where bands polished their act. This was where they proved they could survive the scene. If you killed it at the Whiskey, you were officially part of Sunset Strip history. English Acid wasn't just a club, it was a fashion show, a drug-fueled runway, and a sonic blast of glam, goth, and electro all in one. Held on Wednesday nights, it catered to the beautifully strange. Think mesh, leather, PVC, and eyeliner that went on for days. It was part club, part statement, a place where outsiders became icons, and the more outrageous you looked, the more at home you were. This wasn't where mainstream glam metal reigned. This was where the weird and wired danced until sunrise. English Acid wasn't just a party, it was an attitude, a defiant, seductive, and sweaty explosion of 1980s, counterculture pulsing deep in the city's veins. Bordello was where things got even darker and even stranger. On Thursday nights, this club leaned into its name, velvet, candlelight, and a decadent, almost cabaret-like atmosphere that blurred the lines between nightlife and performance. It was theatrical, seedy, and seductive. Exactly what people came to the Strip to find. Glam rockers, goths, and underground misfits filled the room, their silhouettes flickering in the haze. At Bordello, it wasn't about the band on stage. It was about the energy in the crowd, the things whispered in corners, and what happened in the back rooms when no one was watching. Exposure 54 was the Strip's answer to Studio 54, a Sunday night sanctuary for those who weren't done partying after a full week of excess. Inspired by the original New York legend, Exposure mixed disco flair with sunset sleaze. It was where glam collided with glitter, and where the after party found its final form. If you were still standing by Sunday night, this was your reward. It was hazy, loud, and dreamlike, a place where time didn't matter and last calls never felt real. In the neon glow of Exposure 54, you weren't just a partygoer, you were part of LA's most unhinged weekly ritual. At 2 a.m. on Sunset, everyone eventually ended up at rock and roll Dennys. It wasn't a club, it wasn't cool, and that's exactly why it was perfect. Bands, groupies, stragglers, and survivors packed into booths for bad coffee, cheap pancakes, and post-show autopsies. You didn't need plans. You just showed up and found someone you knew. This place wasn't about the food, it was about that last sliver of night, the crash after the chaos, the come down with the city's loudest ghosts. If those walls could talk, they'd probably scream. Before it became just another address on the Strip, Gazeris was the place where the line between audience and performer practically didn't exist. Known for its over-the-top stage shows, go-go dancers, and chaotic energy, it was a launchpad for hair metal excess. Van Halen cut their teeth here. So did Warren. Every inch of the place screamed 1980s debauchery. It wasn't polished, it wasn't safe. And that's exactly why it worked. Gazeris was all about attitude, loud, sexy, and sweaty, the kind of place that made legends out of amateurs. It's gone now, replaced by high-end nightlife. But for those who remember, no club burned hotter. The Cat House wasn't just a party, it was the party. Founded by Ricky Rachtman and Tame Down, it was where the biggest bands and the wildest fans collided. No live music, no rules. Just rock records spun by DJ's beautiful chaos, and a room packed wall-to-wall with leather, lace, and pure trouble. You didn't go to the Cat House for structure. You went because anything could happen, and it usually did. Guns N' Roses hung out there. So did nearly every band that mattered in that era. If you made it through a night at the Cat House, you earned your stripes. While most of LA was recovering from the weekend, the Strip's hardest partiers were already back in action at Club Scream on Monday nights. It was gritty, grimy, and underground, a magnet for punks, metalheads, goths, and anyone else who couldn't stop moving when the rest of the city slept. It didn't have glam, it had grit, and that's why people loved it. Club Scream wasn't about appearances, it was about escape. A place to burn off the noise of the week before it even started, surrounded by the weirdest, wildest regulars Sunset had to offer. Rock and Roll Ralph's was a grocery store, but you'd never know it by who was in the aisles. It became an unofficial meetup for musicians, groupies, night crawlers, and rock fans. After a gig or a party, this was the spot to grab beer, see who was still standing, and maybe run into your favorite guitarist, grabbing Pop-Tarts at 3 a.m. It was part convenience store, part after-hours mixer, part urban legend. Ralph's on Sunset wasn't cool because it tried to be. It was cool because it didn't care. And in a city where everyone's trying too hard, that made it sacred. And there you have it, 12 of the most legendary bars and clubs that made 1980s Los Angeles a wild, unforgettable dream. Did you know any of these places? Did you ever party there, or wish you had? And more importantly, do you think LA nightlife has changed for the worse over the years? For many, the 80s weren't just another decade, they were the decade. Raw, loud, free, and completely alive. If you feel the same, let us know in the comments. Share your memories, your opinions, or just type, "I missed the Strip." And if you want more videos like this, don't forget to hit that like button. It keeps the spirit of that golden era alive, one story at a time.